Hi there, I'm Matt Watts, and welcome to another edition of What's the Future, which we're filming here from our UK office in Windsor. This episode is going to be about the AI monster, and we're going to do three things. We're going to talk about how have we tamed the IT monsters we built in the past. We're going to talk to Joe Bagley at VMware about how did we get here. And then we're going to talk about how do you think about your entire IT estate in the context of what that means when we look at AI. There's a similar pattern that happens every time something new comes along, and that is that we tend to create monsters. So let's talk a little bit more about what that means. So there are typically four things that happen. The first one is that some new innovation comes along and all of the businesses rush towards seeing how they can exploit this and get advantage from it. Step number two is that it's typically quite unstructured. Different groups go out and do things because they all want to benefit from this new innovation, which then leads to step three, which is that every other group starts to catch up. So the benefits through this innovation are starting to become more minimalized. The problem with that is it's now become complex, which takes us to step four. And step four is that we simplify things and then we go all the way back to the beginning and we start the process over again. Sound familiar? Well, we've done this 3 times before. If you go back to the late 80s and 90s, we used to have these monolithic systems, and those were gradually replaced over time with more modular mid-range technology. It was more flexible. It gave people the ability to innovate at much, much greater speed. It gave much more freedom. But with that freedom, it meant different groups went out and made their own choices. The Exchange team built the Exchange infrastructure, the SQL team, the SQL infrastructure, and on and on and on. We built the first monster. And then the second wave happened. VMware came along, and it reduced the complexity of these environments. It increased the utilization, and it normalized things for quite a number of years until the third wave, cloud. And we approach cloud in exactly the same way as we approached the first wave. Lots of different groups starting to go out and choose the cloud they want to work with, the frameworks they wanted to use within those clouds, and that complexity has come back. And we're now trying to solve that complexity whilst understanding we're at the beginning of the fourth wave, AI.
Well, when we did the second wave, there was a very simple mantra that came up on a lot of our marketing, I suppose, which was abstract, pool, and automate. If you think that's what we did in the second wave to really change the world, was through virtualization of network storage compute, we abstract, pooled, and automated that. Let's look at the third wave of multi-cloud. That's exactly what we're doing again. We're abstracting all those clouds, we're pooling them, automating it, simplifying it, so people now treat those clouds like they used to treat servers before within their data center, getting that openness and choice.
So how do we stop AI from becoming the next monster?
Guardrails. That's the number one thing I'm talking to customers about right now when they're looking at the future. What we need to do is make sure that when people are going and using all these new technologies, just like before we had with cloud, where there was shadow IT and everyone going off and using random bits of cloud willy-nilly and building things on premises, and it was all a mess. And then we had the same with Kubernetes. It's exactly the same we're going to have now, where people are off using random AIs all over the place. What they want to do is they want to make sure they don't end up in some kind of legal mess or logistical or operational mess around what they've built and then have to unpick that. So guardrails is really important. It's actually more about governance than it is about technology for customers right now.
So how important is AI to the future of many different industries?
It's fundamental in a way that people don't realize.
Yeah.
What we've got to now is a tipping point, and that tipping point is we're putting AI in the hands of normal people. And what I mean by that is when you finally get it out there to the mass market is where the magic happens, where the non-geeks go and do things that we never expected or modeled. And it's exactly what you're seeing now.
So this is the democratization of AI playing out in real time.
Completely, but it's also the democratization of technology. Back in the day when computers first started, a few 5 or 6 people knew how to program them. And then we got easier and easier programming languages. We got more and more people could understand how to program a computer. Now you can talk to computers in natural language without having to understand how the computer works or what it does. That's absolutely transformational. And that's really what we're seeing right now.
Goldman Sachs says that AI cost savings are going to increase GDP by up to 7%. So let's talk to an AI specialist at NetApp about what that means. Hey, Josep.
Yeah, Matt, organizations are starting to see how AI can multiply value for them. Companies that are able to scale their AI projects are seeing 3 times return of their investment. In fact, we're seeing customers who are getting almost 70% time savings from implementing AI in their business processes.
So what role will NetApp play in the future of AI?
If you look at the advancements of the AI technology, Matt, in the past 5 years, it was mainly because of two reasons: the availability of compute as well as the availability of the data for a lot of companies. If you think about it, 10 years ago, when organizations are putting their cloud strategy, they didn't have AI strategy in mind. So they didn't think of bringing all this data together at one place and having access to the data wherever it sits, whether it's on the hyperscalers or on premises, is becoming a huge importance to advance AI technologies at different industries.
What advice would you give to companies that are looking to take advantage of AI?
Define your goals and metrics. Try to figure out what do you want to achieve with this technology. Invest in talent and infrastructure. Choose the right tools and platforms. And when you're choosing the right tools and the platforms, you got to look at things like cost, performance, security, compatibility, and then usability when selecting your tools and platforms. So basically, if you start with a set of goals and metrics, then you don't create that monster that we're seeing today.
So what's the future? Well, we need to learn from the past to make sure that we don't keep making the same mistakes again. We need to make sure we don't build another monster. And we're going to be able to do that if we start thinking about intelligent data infrastructures, finding consistent ways to do things in this world of AI, consistent ways of storing, protecting, managing data, of creating data pipelines, of dealing with security. If we get that right, intelligent data infrastructure becomes the sword we'll use to kill the next monster.